Reading from Bhagavad-gita Chapter 16, Divine Communion through Discrimination between Good and Evil. The Supreme Lord said, certain qualities come to ornament the personalities of those who are inclined to the divine life. They become truly fearless, absolutely pure at heart, and filled with wisdom. Always absorbed in communion with me, they give generously in service to others, practice self-discipline, and joyfully participate in acts of divine worship, singing my holy names and dancing in ecstasy. By contemplation of the Holy Scriptures, they come to understand the deepest meanings of a life of divine service and show preference for a simple life in tune with the natural flow. They transcend all aggressive feelings and show kindness to all. Ever attached to truth and always pleasant in their speaking, they never become inflamed with anger. Turning their back on materialistic pursuits, they achieve perfect tranquility. They never like to see the defects of others, preferring to show their love and mercy towards all. Never greedy for mundane achievement, they are mild-mannered and gentle, humble and kind. They work with resolute purpose, are filled with vitality and strength, never take offense at anything, and are always ready to forgive the failings of others. Filled with courage on account of their deep faith, they always remain free of mundane taint and pray for the well-being of all. Although they are the most honourable of all souls, they never desire praise and are never pompous. So wonderful are the qualities of my devotees. On the other hand, my dear child of Pritha, those of atheistic temperament are generally hypocrites, filled with pride and arrogance, and anxious to see themselves as the centre of the universe. They are easily moved to anger, deal very roughly with others, and are dull-witted, never able to penetrate into the real meaning of life. O orphan son of the great King Pandu, fear not. You possess the inclination towards divine life even at the time of your birth. Supreme redemption comes quickly to those whose devotional qualities are manifest, but continued confinement within the limits of matter is the fate of the atheistic who show no love for others. Two types of persons are to be found in this world, the saintly-hearted and the evil-minded. I have described already in some detail the qualities of the devoted and spiritually minded souls, but I shall now discuss the nature of those with flawed understanding, who cannot come to share in the reservoir of divine qualities. The evil-minded are blind to truth, their character is obnoxious and their habits unclean. They are unable to distinguish properly between action that will be truly beneficial and action that will cause distress. They conclude that life is without real meaning and that the cosmos has no absolute foundation. As for consciousness, they presume that it is merely a biological function. The consciousness of such persons remains crippled by such misconceptions and therefore deprived of its true glory. Because their ethical conceptions are unevolved, they carry out their misguided schemes with a view towards exploiting their environment and other souls for personal gain. At last they will conceive and construct devices that are capable of destroying the whole world. They approach their unclean works with determination and find refuge in the temporary satisfaction of their passionate drives. Puffed up with self-importance, overbearing in their mannerisms, they deceive even their very selves and are unable to distinguish reality from mirage. They think that the satisfaction of their selfish desires is the ultimate purpose of life, and are therefore always uneasy and beset with cares. Only death comes at last to relieve their anxieties. Filled with false hopes and bound within a framework built of their numberless desires, they become frustrated and easily rise to anger. Requiring wealth to satisfy their sensual appetites, they are never constrained by conscience from adopting even unfair means which might bring harm to others. Evil-minded persons calculate in their darkness, thinking, I have already gained much by my cleverness, and I am determined to acquire much more in days to come. My assets will no doubt increase manyfold as time goes on. I have already succeeded in eliminating several of my opponents and competitors, and will make sure to get rid of the rest of them before long. I am the only real guide because by my efforts everything can be put under control. In fact, everything is simply meant for my pleasure because I am the most perfect of all, the most potent as well. So happy I am enjoying my opulence in the midst of my high-class relatives and friends. I shall perpetuate this pleasure by gaining fame as a philanthropist and a man of piety, and in this way I shall be triumphant. With their consciousness always overburdened by such involved calculations, they find themselves imprisoned within the web of their own misconceptions, and thus, although the desire for enjoyment is very strong, they end up in a hellish condition, tortured by their own impurities. Fully convinced of their own superiority, shameless in their exploitation of others, concerned only with acquiring wealth and gaining name and fame, they participate in community affairs or take part in religious activities, only to make a show of piety. They never consider scriptural injunctions to be authoritative, always misidentifying themselves with the body and mind, dependent on their unlimited strength, proud of their mundane achievements, driven by numberless desires and easily displeased and angered. Those whose hearts are contaminated with malice towards others come to despise the Supreme Person who dwells within the hearts of all, and they fill their mouths with blasphemies and unkind words. Being the least evolved of all the human race, such envious and cruel persons wander continuously from one inauspicious womb to another. In this way, I keep them circling within the wheel of perpetual birth and death. Birth after birth passes for such ungodly souls, and never seeking to reach me, they spiral downwards, condemned to enter one place of darkness after another. There are 3 doors which open up to hellish existence. These are marked craving for sense pleasure, avarice and gluttony, and angry feelings toward others. Therefore one should keep these 3 doors firmly shut. O noble son of the pious Queen Kunti, any person who transcends these paths to darkness comes to display transparently the true and divine character of the soul, and enters at last into the sacred homeland, the eternal realm of the Supreme Divine Person. However, those who place no faith in the Holy Scriptures, but do whatever they please to satisfy their selfish desires, never reach the platform of perfection, and never come to taste the joy of everlasting life in my supreme abode. Therefore, one must contemplate deeply upon the Holy Scriptures and understand from authoritative evidence found therein what kind of action will lead to degradation and what kind will elevate one to the perfectional stage of life.